Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the fourth episode of Yee-Haw, a Bonanza podcast. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we are going to be watching Season 1, Episode 4, The Paiute War. Hope you guys are all settled in and ready to watch this episode. Once again, I was kind of lame this week, and I went with a orange mango icy as my drink of choice, and water, and of course, blueberries in case I get hungry later in the episode. Unfortunately, I did brush my teeth right before I started recording this, so the orange mango icy tastes disgusting. But that is on me, and that's what I get for deciding to brush my teeth. Let's go ahead and read some fun facts about this fourth episode of Bonanza before we dive on in today. So, the episode details of the Paiute War. This episode was written by Gene L. Kuhn of Star Trek, David Dortort, and Fred Hamilton. It was once again directed by Paul Landers. It premiered October 3rd, 1959, and its special guest of the week was Jack Warden as the extremely annoying Wilson, but it also featured Anthony Caruso, Michael Forrest, Walter Coy, Douglas Kennedy, Howard Petrie, Peter Coe, George Keymas, Mike Ragan, and Stanford Jolly, Greg Martell. So ordinarily, the cast is pretty big. You know, I just listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people that are prominent in this episode, but it usually has a focus guest for the week. And in this case, it is Jack Warden. The episode description is: in order to escape punishment for mistreating 2 Paiute women, a traitor blames it on Adam Cartwright. The Paiutes seize Adam and make him a hostage as war erupts between the tribe and a local militia. I'm actually very excited because this episode focuses more on Adam this week, and Adam Cartwright is my favorite Bonanza character, and I love his episodes so much. So I'm happy to kick off the first of his many character-highlighted episodes. Before we dive into this one today, fun little fact for you. So I was looking into one of the writers of this episode who pops up for like 99% of the series. Fred Hamilton is his name. And I looked at it, and on his IMDb page, it says that he was involved with 429 out of the 431 Bonanza episodes. So he was involved from the very beginning. That is crazy. So for all 14 seasons, he was a part of the show, which is a crazy track record. What else did it say he worked on? It says, well, they have a preview for Anything Goes on his IMDb page, but it says that he also worked on the Colgate Comedy Hour, Dick Tracy, the Aquanuts. But yeah, it looks like Bonanza was his biggest show that he worked on. So that's super impressive. You stayed for all 14 seasons, sir. That is dedication. Way to go. So once again, I checked out this episode on the full Bonanza DVD set. They had some very cool pictures of Michael Landon, Lauren Green, Pernell Roberts in the final act of the episode, I believe. And then they had a check back next week promo that they showed, you know, where you would have a narrator come over and it would be like, on next week's episode of Bonanza, and then they would show you all of these out of context clips to get you excited for the next episode. So that was kind of cool. You know, it's like a jump back in time. You can see how it originally aired on television, and that's always pretty neat to check out. Okay, I think I've said my piece before we watch this episode today. Didn't have any listener thoughts on today's episode, but as always, guys, if you want to send me your thoughts on whatever episode we're watching for the week, you can email me at meltyenjoys@gmail.com. Also, if you are enjoying this podcast so far, if you could drop me a positive, quick little review on Apple Podcasts, I would be so eternally grateful. Every little bit helps, and if you could go out of your way and drop me a positive review, I would really appreciate it. And one more thing, guys, I have a Patreon account, which is also at Melty Enjoys. The link is in the description of this video. If you want behind the scenes updates of videos I'm working on, be a part of discussions, get access to new videos, You can go on over to my Patreon and pick a tier. Every little bit helps support the channel, and I'm always excited to offer you guys more exclusive behind the scenes stuff. So head on over to my Patreon if you want to consider supporting the channel. Okay, hopefully I didn't miss anything, but I think we are now ready to watch Season 1, Episode 4 of Bonanza, the Paiute War. So go ahead and pull up your copy of the episode, and we will hit play. I'm so excited. An Adam-centric episode. I just love Adam so much. Ugh. You guys will hear many of my I love Adam spiels, so I apologize for any rants in advance. Okay, let's go ahead and hit play in 3, 2, 1, go. Once again, very loud. I don't know why the volume starts off so loud. Now this man, he is a great actor because I was so pissed off at him this entire episode. He did a great job of making me angry, let me put it that way. This episode is just one huge misunderstanding. And do you guys ever get frustrated watching something where you're like, I know it has to be a misunderstanding for the plot to unfold, but then you just get angry at the misunderstanding because you're like, act like adults. I want to punch all of these guys. I love that outside shot. Yes, the Han Solo look is back, baby. Why do they keep rotating the intro? Like, depending on the outfits that they're wearing, the first 2 intros, or I guess 3, I should say, rotate depending on what outfits they're wearing. But the only thing that matters is Adam's Han Solo look is back. Only time you see Haas in this episode. I sure hope nothing bad happens in this episode. The upcoming scene is just chef's kiss, where Adam comes in. Ugh. I think these early seasons really demonstrate what a contrast to what the show eventually became and the regular plot lines they started going for. It changed and evolved a lot. Oh, I guess Bruno's fine now. Okay, now we get the comeuppance. Although honestly, this rewatching this episode is just like wow, because the violence in it is just there's highlights the contrast again to later seasons. That's right. Oh my God, I love him so much. Okay, this shot right here, you can so clearly see it's a stunt double. And it definitely wouldn't have mattered for the time because television quality was not as crisp as it is today. But I still find it very funny when you can see that stark contrast between the actor and their stunt double, especially for those brief scenes. It's always so funny. That's right, you mess around, you find out. Okay, this scene is actually pretty brutal. There's a couple moments in this episode where you're just like, wow. Like, that is. Wow. Honestly, kudos to these outside, excuse me, shots with the buildings burning, like this stuff. But like the dead bodies and like I mean, like the blood looks pretty fakey there, but the violence still stands. Honestly, it's pretty dark overall. And I guess that's a testament to the show's range. Like they could cover some a pretty wide variety of themes in their show. Like it could be really funny one week, like the hay burner, and then the next week they could deal with mercy killing. And then the next week you could have a battle where literally everybody dies. It's just the variety of Bonanza was so wide. There is an interesting theme in this episode of hatred blinding you to the point of rage. You know, like foregoing all logic in favor of emotion. There's a lot of good dialogue in this episode that I quite enjoyed. Like there's one scene I think close to the end where it's Ben and Joe and then the majors talking. And I thought it was pretty well scripted. I really don't know what you call Adam's cowboy pants. There's a term for it that I'm missing here, but I really like them. I love Adam so much. This episode, it is maybe more of an honest portrayal of just the brutality of that time. You know, how rough that time was. You know, the kill or be killed mentality. But they also do something so interesting at the end of this episode where they just let you sit with the rawness of the ending. I don't know, there's like a lot of interesting themes in here. just about like hatred and rage and emotion and logic and foregoing logic because of emotion and brutality. But maybe that's also why Bonanza was so popular. You know, you had, like I said earlier, you just had so many different kinds of episodes. You didn't know what you were getting week to week. You didn't know what kind of story it was going to be. There's such an interesting contrast. Like, obviously, the main cast hasn't quite come into their personalities yet. You know, Adam's still Adam, but he's not quite the Adam we know him to become. Same with Ben. Same with Haas. Adam has some emotional reactions, though, in this episode. You know, like lunging at that guy. Like, I think that would almost be out of character for him later because his character becomes very quiet and observant and doesn't make a move until he knows he absolutely has to. Very reserved, very in control of his own emotions. Like, there are still examples of those character traits in this episode, but it becomes more evolved. Like, I can think of a couple episodes that are coming up where he has more emotional reactions to things. And later he becomes much more controlled and so when Adam does have an outburst in later seasons, you know he really means it. It's just fun to compare and contrast the versions. Who were you on Bonanza? I was the guy who played the drum when we were getting ready to wage war. Sorry, can't speak. Wage war. Okay, this guy who plays Chief Winnemucca is actually pretty good. I thought his performance was honestly like pretty great. I think it's Anthony Caruso. But I really enjoyed watching him. Now here, upcoming, we have another honestly quite brutal scene. And this park, why can't I think of the name of this park? I had looked it up and I had saved it. in my notes on my phone, but it's a park in Los Angeles where they filmed quite frequently, and I want to go there because I have some family that lives in Los Angeles, and it might be a great excuse for another trip just to see where they filmed Bonanza and maybe take some pictures and videos of filming locations. That would be kind of cool. I think this is the park though. I need to look it up. Oh, let's see if I can. Iverson Ranch. Iverson, I think that's what it's called. Iverson Ranch, Chatsworth, Los Angeles, California. Yep, that's the place where I want to visit. I'll have to look into that next time I'm out in LA. This is the misunderstanding thing that I'm talking about that's coming up. Which is like, does there need to be a big misunderstanding for this episode to work? But then it's also like, it's so frustrating. It's just one big mess. And you can't hate Wilson enough. His behavior is so annoying. And absolutely nobody listens. Like this, like so many people die. Oh man, I think I missed it, but did that stunt happen where the guy gets dragged away by the horse? Already happen? It was a crazy stunt. Nope, there it is. That is a crazy stunt. Like, oh my gosh. Stunt people need to be appreciated more. That was wild. And this is not a short scene either, by the way. Like that, they really make you sit in it. Like, they immerse you in that. They're like, this is a bloodbath, and we're gonna display that. But it doesn't go over the top. Like, if that was done today, the violence would have been way over the top. Like, I don't think we show as much restraint today, which I think is problematic when it comes to violence in television shows. But I could write an essay on that. I could go on a rant about how far I think violence has gone in today's television. Aw, Ben. Like, looking at this from a character perspective for Ben, who's lost so much and seen so much, like, the idea that he even lost Adam is just, oh my gosh, it's so sad. This episode did pique my curiosity a lot as to what the early days of Ben Cartwright and his sons might have looked like. You know, especially with Marie, or excuse me, Felicia, as Little Joe puts it in the first episode. They have some conversations in this episode where, Adam was supposedly really good friends with Young Wolf, the son of Winnemucca. And it makes me curious, like, what would those stories have looked like? Hmm. Good Lord. I'm sorry. Pernell Roberts was so handsome. He was so good looking. Goodness gracious. Okay, Young Wolf has tried to kill him so many times in this episode. Adam's hair. I know Pernell was like wearing honestly, a very good looking toupee. But his hair color like switches. I don't know if it's the way the color comes off just from like the quality of the film, but at some points it looks like it's black, and then at other points it looks like it's really, 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 really dark brown. I think it's really, 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 really dark brown, but in some scenes it looks like a shiny bluish black, but I think that's the way the color is coming off on the film. Purnell was a really good subtle actor. You know, in his facial expressions in the eyes. There's a scene coming up with Winnemucca where his facial expression just drops, and it's so good. The Ponderosa looks so barren, it's insane. Aw, little Joe. Look at that. The Ponderosa looks like so dumpy. Little Joe, he's rocking the Adam look this episode. You know, he had the early Adam look going on here. But ultimately that look belongs to Adam. I do miss the variety of the outfits. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the variety. Um Aw, that quip was cute. That was a cute little quip. There's also another interesting theme in this episode about loyalty to one's people versus loyalty to one's friend. And then, not compromising that, even if it's right. But again, interesting theme of emotion over logic and reasoning and how that can destroy you. Like that. What is that backstory? I want to see the early days. Honestly, there is so much potential to make like an animated series of Bonanza, even if you were taking sound bites from the original show and animating them. I always thought that would be such a cool concept. To bring it to a new generation. And then if you wanted to tell new stories, you could do the early days of the Ponderosa as an animated series, like as a prequel series. I know they tried to do like a live action prequel series in the 90s or early 2000s, but that was with a whole different cast. And I don't know. I'm of the opinion that animation can allow for a lot more. And I think that there would be room for a Bonanza animated series. I really do. And I would spearhead it. I volunteer to spearhead that. That was the firmest handshake I've ever seen. I hate Wilson so much. Again, kudos to the actor. I hate your guts here. But he's doing a good job if I hate his guts. I really like this. The dialogue in this scene is very fast, but it moves really well. Like, cutting between characters. What I mean. I think it just feels very natural and it's moving very quickly. Also, it helps that they're all really good actors. Somebody pointed out that last week's episode, the script was pretty tight, and I think it's the same here. I think it's a pretty tight script, and the pacing's nice and the beats are nice. The rope burns on Adam's wrists are a really nice touch. I always appreciate that kind of consistency. What was his plan here? What was the history? Like, how did Ben Cartwright become friends with, like, Chief Winnemucca? What did that relationship between Young Wolf and Adam look like? There's so much history here that you could explore. This guy is really good. I think he's quite good as Chief Winnemucca. Hmm. Like that. Like the being torn between your loyalty to your people and then your personal friendship. There's a lot of layers to this that you can take out of this episode. Mm. Do our small lives matter so much to you people? There's like an honor code here. Like, I don't want it to be this way, but if we have to go down fighting, I'm going to go down fighting. And I'm sorry, but this is the way it's going to be. That facial expression there. It drops completely. And it's like the reality setting in. He's like, oh man, you really mean this. He was such a good, subtle actor. It's all in the eyes, baby. All in the eyes. Gosh, he was such a good actor. He's like, you seriously don't know why I'm here. Wow, they really beat him up, didn't they? Wow. That's fair. At least he answered genuinely. This whole episode is just a massive mess. I mean, not like in writing, but like in terms of like how the plot unfolds and the misunderstanding. Like, it's just they dug themselves into a pretty deep position. So sloppy not to watch Adam making his own plans to escape. But I don't know. That's another reason I like him. He's calculating. He's very, like, calm and calculating as character. Even if he does have emotional outbursts in these early seasons, you know, there's still a very, like, in control demeanor he gives off. Hence, which is probably why I liked My Brother's Keeper so much as an episode, which isn't until like season 4. So we got a long way to go before we get to that episode, but I love that episode because it kind of shakes up Adam's character a little bit. Wilson's about to F everything up. This guy is the worst. He's the worst. I'm about to end this man's entire career. He's like, don't test me. I will literally kill you on this rock. Oh, they have a lot of extras in this episode. Now that I'm thinking about it, all the soldiers, all the actors for the individual tribes, for the Paiutes and the Shoshone. That's a lot of actors. Wow, he's on perfect pitch for that. Deserves its own soundtrack. Oh boy, everything's about to go to hell. But Adam's gonna escape. Getting ready to fight. Nope. You had one job. You had one job and you lost him. Couple recycled shots here from the beginning. Boom, 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 boom. Run, Adam, run. This is like the longest pause ever. God, Wilson. Jeez, this guy. And then it proceeds to be a bloodbath for like the next 7 minutes. Roughly, I don't know. There's not much time left. Also, I love the added in fake explosions on top of the scene that they did. Like that. Oh boy. Maybe don't announce it next time so you don't give Adam a chance to knife you. Which, I don't know. I don't love the Wilson's ending, but he died and he kind of asked for it, so I guess they just had to kill Wilson really quick. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Adam killing Wilson in that manner, anyway. I don't know. I felt like that was going to be a bigger climax, but again, you can see Adam's wrists are like bloodied and like scratched up, which I appreciate the effort in consistency. You know, it seems like a minor thing, but I appreciate it when they make efforts to do that. Interesting that they switched to an in-studio shot here. There's really no, again, okay, now we're back to the normal outside shot. It's just interesting the choice that they made there to do that. I don't know if it was like a lighting thing or something. Gosh, that is. It's a very interesting episode ending because there's really no concrete resolution. They add on, or I'm sorry, they don't add on. There's no concrete resolution. It's sad and it leaves you with the loss. And then that's how they just cut off the episode. And I think ordinarily one would expect more of a resolution, But instead, they choose to let you sit with the loss and think. Like, they don't give you an answer to the episode. And I almost kind of like that better. Where it was like, you have this massive mess. You have this massive misunderstanding. And what is the solution? We don't know. This is just the way that all these characters behaved. And because of that, there was massive loss on both sides. And in that way, I think they kind of leave it up to the viewer on like the moral ambiguity of it, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's the right term, but I like how they leave it up to the audience. Like, they don't tell the audience, this is the resolution to this kind of problem. They just kind of let you run with it and they let you think about it. And I actually like that a lot. Weird that they didn't have any local law enforcement anywhere in this episode. I don't think it was... Is it super relevant? I don't know. But I would have at least expected a sheriff of Virginia City. I know that they hadn't figured out like who is sheriff. Like, the sheriffs switch in future episodes quite frequently in season 1. But I found it interesting that there wasn't a sheriff like at the local bar, or maybe it could have been in the place of the lawyer character. I don't really know why they put the lawyer character there instead of an actual sheriff, but it's really not that big of a deal. It's just kind of funny where it's like, where's your local law enforcement? Aren't they involved in this somehow? But yeah, I mean, look, I think it was a pretty tightly scripted episode. I think it's very enjoyable. I appreciate the ending. I appreciate the realistic nature of the ending. I appreciate the honesty of the brutality of the time in this episode. Very dark, a lot of violence, but again, like I was saying earlier, the violence in these shows back then, it's like they never went too far. And I can appreciate like making your point with violence in a story if it's necessary, but not going so far that you're illustrating like all the gory details. And I think our television today goes way too far on some of those details. Like, I can't remember what it was, but I watched a show. God, what was it? One of my buddies asked me to sit down and watch this show with him that he really liked. And we got done watching the first episode and I sat back and I was like, dude, I cannot watch this because it's too violent and the violence is taking away from any story that I may or may not be interested in. I was like, I'm honestly disturbed by it and I don't want to become numb to violence. So like, there are ways that you can do it without going over the line. And I think that they illustrated their point in this episode without being like way too over the top, which I appreciate. And I think it's really important. But honestly, I liked this one a lot. I'd be really interested to know what you guys think. I think the script was quite good. I thought the dialogue was quite good. I thought the acting was quite good. We get a character-centric episode on Adam, my favorite. I love his acting so much. Really excited to get deeper into these character-centric episodes, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Once again, if you want to email me your thoughts at meltyandjoys@gmail.com, I would love to read them, or you can drop a comment here on the YouTube channel, and I would love to read them there as well. So make sure you reach out and let me know what you think. If you're watching today's episode on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on your favorite podcasting streaming service or you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider dropping me a positive review. I would be so grateful, and I would love to hear any thoughts that you have. Well, that just about sums up today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you next week when we watch Season 1, Episode 5, Enter Mark Twain. Have a great day, everybody.